This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
You've seen and read my 3 Pillars ebook, and now I'm proud to announce my new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, a beautiful symbiotic relationship, and it's now out and ready for reading. This new book of mine is a full-length version of the teachings of the 3 Pillars, and in it I show you how to walk in the integrity of eternal and universal laws, in step with the law of attraction to consistently create the life you desire. Now, if you've ever wondered just why you can't consistently manifest all the good, loving, abundant, healthy, and happy things you desire, my new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, will reveal the key in how to do just that. Plus, help you build a rock-solid personal foundation that will stand strong for the ages. Get your copy today. My new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, a beautiful symbiotic relationship by Carl Gruber. Available now in ebook and paperback on Amazon.com. Hey guys, welcome. This is episode number 123 of the show World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment. I'm your host, Carl Gruber. Now, as many of you know, one of the main themes driving this show is the study, investigation, and learning of the modern spiritual guide called A Course in Miracles. And we have had many of the world's top teachers and experts here to help us along in our understanding and practice of it. Today, we continue this tradition with yet another wonderful teacher of the ACIM, Bill Free. Now, Bill Free is the founder of Pure Presence Productions, a platform for thought leaders, wisdom teachers, and teachers that help to awaken you to your true identity. He is a renowned student and teacher of the Course in Miracles and utilizes its teachings to awaken the I Am presence within you. He offers talks, self-inquiry, guided meditations, book studies, guided tours to India, and masterclass workshops to help others discover realized awareness for themselves. You can find him online at billfree.com. So welcome, Bill. Thank you for blessing us with your presence here.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here. Namaste to you and to everyone watching. It's my honor to be here. And, this is the game we're playing, is awakening. And I'm happy to support whatever that looks like in the different venues.
Well, and I appreciate, and blessing us with your pure presence. That's it. But, I know you don't know me other than seeing what I do online. So I do appreciate you taking the time and the trust to be on the show. But, I'd like to find out a little bit more about my guests. Would you be willing to tell us a bit about your early life and how the non-dualistic spiritual teachings of A Course in Miracles came into and changed your life?
Sure. I just turned 69, and I have been searching since I was 27 for at that time I'd been an alcoholic, drug addict, searching for some kind of interesting lifestyle coming out of the hippie era, so probably like yourself, and we're close to the same age. And coming out of the drug culture and early alcoholic, I was a father at 21 years old, and I had this real desire to want to raise my little girl in a different environment, one that wasn't all really filled with all that craziness that you sort of fall into in your teenage years. And at 27, I I found myself divorced, and the caretaker, the caregiver of this little 2-year-old, and I wanted to have a better life for her. So I thought, well, maybe I'll start going to church. So I started looking into churches, and right away I became interested in Jesus. I found myself baptized in the sea in the Bahamas, and all from that experience. I don't know how it happened. I never went to AA. I never went to a drug rehab, anything like that. As soon as I was baptized in the ocean, I quit drugs, never picked it up again. I quit alcohol for 20 years. I quit smoking. I stepped out of that experience like a really born again person, and I followed that for 20 years. I came out of that baptism, and immediately I wanted to know more about this guy Jesus, that I was really, get that Jesus stuff away from me in my teenage years. We would call those guys, as you may remember, Jesus freaks. We didn't want like the Jesus freaks. And now I'm one. And I found myself on a TWA airline. Within a week, I was flying to Tel Aviv and then a bus ride up to Jerusalem, Bethlehem. I wanted to see if this Jesus character was real, what I heard about, if these places were true. They were, and I came back and I devoted the next 20 years of my life to Christianity. And I went, I was a weekly guy. I started going to church on a regular basis. My little girl went to Sunday school with the little kids, and we became indoctrined into that Christian sort of a Baptist tradition. And years into it, I'm starting to wonder if God is love, and Jesus, went to everyone. He didn't withhold himself from anything or anyone. How is it that we're so against gays and lesbians, and that's abomination to God? So that started opening up my mind that something's off here. And as I started looking into into the questions that I had about God, and God being love, and something's doesn't feel like love, I began to look into other teachings like the Ernest Holmes and the Science of Mind, and my I was sort of just searching. The internet was just coming online in those early 2000s years, and you could look stuff up, and I started looking things up, and out of the blue, my younger sister called me on the phone, and she said, hey, my brothers and sisters call me Billy, and she said, Billy, what's going on? I hadn't talked to you in a while. I said, Fancy, her name is Fancy. I said, Fancy, you're not going to believe this. I am looking at Science of Mind. I'm signed up for this course in New York City for the Kabbalah. I'm checking out all these other ideas. And so I'm not the same born again Christian and I'm going to Anthony Robbins, these fire walks where you walk on coals, and I'm just really out of the box, Bill out of the box. And she told me about these two books. She said, well, wow, it's really interesting you're saying all this. I just saw this guy named Gary Renard, who he's talking to these two people that he showed up in his living room, and I think the name of the book is Disappearance of the Universe, and And so I'm writing down the name of that. And she said, he's talking about this thing called A Course in Miracles. I don't know. And I wrote that down. So I went out that night. I found Gary's book in the bookstore that was, I was living in Florida at the time. And I found Gary's book in the bookstore. So I bought it, and I couldn't find the Course in Miracles. So I just started reading Gary's book. I couldn't put it down. It was, I couldn't even sleep. I started, it was unraveling the Christian belief system, like one dogma, one kind of a thing at a time. I'd say, wow, that makes a lot more sense than this. And I was just sort of checking the boxes of the things that I had problems with in the Bible, that Gary was just sort of checking the boxes for me. And I got to page 95 in his book. In the first day, I read the book in 4 days. It's 400 pages. I read it in 4 days. I literally could not sleep. It became so compelling for me to want to see how does this book end. And on page 95, Artin or Persa, whoever was talking to Gary, said, Gary, Ken Wapnick, they were talking about the Course, and I think it must have been Persa. She said, Gary is still alive today, Gary, and he's going to be known as the foremost teacher of A Course in Miracles in history. And you can see him today. So I made reservations to fly to Temecula to the next 7-day retreat to sit with Ken Wapnick. Made those reservations, and then I found that Gary was going to be in Bradenton, Florida, in March. This was in December of 2006. And Gary was going to be in Bradenton, Florida. So I made reservations to see him. And then I went back and finished reading the book. And by Sunday, I wasn't a Christian anymore. I was like totally waiting for this. I ordered the book from the Foundation for Inner Peace. It was in my mailbox Monday because I wanted it blue labeled to my mailbox. And that was my introduction to A Course in Miracles. It was a big shakeup in my household because all of my life was invested in the Christian tradition. Mm-hmm. I married a woman whose father was the chairman of the board of the Moody Bible Institute. We were church people at a mega church of I don't know, I think they had about 3,000 or 4,000 members, and I was I was very involved, and I just came out of that going, hey, you guys, we got it all wrong. And that was the end of that relationship with the Christian church, and a new relationship with the community for A Course in Miracles. And of course, it was the end of, not immediately, but within a couple of years, it was the end of that marriage. Mm-hmm. And that investment in Christianity. Everything came apart for me. And it was perfect, because it brought me to the experience of awakening. Many years later, it brought me, I went from not drinking for 20 years because I was a good Christian to A Course in Miracles doesn't mind if you drink. That's just a belief. That's just being guilty for your actions. So I started drinking, not heavily, but I started drinking again after putting it down for 20 years. And I also had this real alive connection with an inner voice that was directing me in my activity, on day-to-day activity. And I could, if I had a question, the voice would answer. Mm-hmm. in my mind. And I became very familiar with this voice. I thought this voice was like the Holy Spirit, as I interpreted the Holy Spirit to be the voice for God or my inner teacher. And also that Jesus, as I was understanding the course, and it felt like and sounded like Jesus was talking to me directly. And it's almost like I could tell when it was Jesus's voice, and I could tell when it was just the inner teacher of my own spirit, of the Holy Spirit, what I termed as the Holy Spirit. And I sort of felt very comfortable receiving instructions from these two guides. And one day when I had temporarily relocated out to Texas. I was living in a motorhome because I was a general contractor, and I went out there to put a team together to help people that had gone through Hurricane Ike in 2008, and I went as a reconstruction and insurance adjusting contractor, and I put people back in their homes. I readjusted their insurance estimates, and I started helping people with Hurricane Ike. And I was living by myself in my motorhome at one of these hurricane relief centers where it's all just hurricane relief contractors and FEMA. And I'm drinking a little bit too much. I'm going to the bar at night after the end of the day, and I'm starting to really like this new experience of drinking. And I'm buying glasses of wine, mostly wine, at the bar, and coming home a little bit drunk. And one day I went to the grocery store and I bought a bottle of wine and put it in my fridge, where I had been just going down to the bar buying glasses of wine. And when I put that bottle of wine in my fridge, I didn't think anything of it. I had a phone call with someone that I was just talking on the phone with, and I have her in my ear on the phone, and I opened up the fridge and I saw that bottle of wine. And this voice came in my head and said, "You can't hear me when you drink that." Mm-hmm. And I went, it was like, when you drink that, you're not listening. And so I took that bottle of wine out, I poured it down the sink. I never picked up another drink after that. Because I wanted to, it was more important for me to continue hearing this voice and then it was for me to feel that buzz from the alcohol. So I put it away. I never picked it up again. And shortly after that, I was invited to a retreat up in the mountains in Utah that David Hoffmeister was putting on. And I went up into the mountains for that retreat. And he invited me to be like a volunteer maintenance builder for the monastery at that time. And I just said, I'm done with this world. I'm done with construction. I'm done with chasing the tiger by the tail. I'm going to go all in and devote my life to God, to whatever that is, the God of my understanding, to the teachings of A Course in Miracles. And at that time, it was beyond A Course in Miracles. It had included Muji, Ramana Maharshi. It had included a lot of Eastern teachings of non-duality. And so I just felt like this was my exit to just go all in for awakening. And I gave my business to my superintendent. I packed up the tools that I was going to keep. I traded some of my equipment in for a cargo trailer that my stuff would fit into. I hooked it onto the back of my motorhome, and I drove up into the mountains 2 months later to live at the monastery that David Hoffmeister had just recently acquired up in the mountains. And that was the turning point for me, devoting my life to awakening. Sort of at that time as a nomad, I didn't have a bankroll of money. I didn't actually know that I had $20,000. I thought maybe I had a couple thousand, just enough to get up to his place. And my motorhome was old; it was paid for, and I just turned my life over to the experience of awakening at that point, and that became my dedication, my purpose.
Wow, what a journey, Bill. That is phenomenal. So you went from a hippie addicted to drugs and alcohol, then to dogmatic religion, and then into the SBNR, the world of spiritual but not religious, like so many of us are now. What a beautiful journey. That's interesting. You know, I've had David Hoffmeister on this show. I got to go down to his mom's home in Cincinnati and hang out with him for a little while after. He's a beautiful, beautiful teacher. And David has so much positive influence on so many of us. So, wow, that is beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. That's an incredible. I hope you put a book out about your life. So that'll make a great book. You know, one thing I would like to ask, one of the main features, and I've been looking at your website and all that you do, is a practice of something called Pure Presence Conferences. Can you explain to us what this is all about and what it involves?
Well, yeah, Pure Presence Conferences is an event that that I founded about right when COVID happened. I had this idea prior to that. In October, before COVID was announced, I had an idea that I wanted to start doing online virtual conferences. So I traveled out to San Francisco, and I met a lot of people with Zoom before they became a world phenomenon because of COVID. And I met some engineers out there and some people that knew how to put a conference system together so that we could have my thought was, I want to have a conference where people can they can come in virtually and they can pick a door and they can listen to one of 4 speakers that are going simultaneous. And I want to, and so if you wanted to watch Gary Renard, you could watch him. If you wanted to watch Jennifer Hadley, you could watch her. If you wanted to, and it was John Mundy, Robert Perry, Lisa Natoli, whoever it was, you would pick that person, and then you would be in a session with them for 90 minutes. And then we would do that for a weekend. And that became Pure Presence Conferences weekends. And I've done 7 of them in the last 3.5 years. They're composed of about 25 teachers, and the model that we've developed that works the best is we make it available for free for the world, and then we offer the replays for a short money, $127. We make the replays available for people that have the money, don't have or they want to watch it over 6 months, so they don't miss a session, or they just want to watch it at their leisure. And if you don't have the money, you can watch it from your iPhone for free. You can watch it while it's live, and you can so you're not limited to having money to be able to have a session with some of the greatest teachers in the world today. And so we're moving into November. We'll have our next conference in November, and it's called the Mind, Body, Spirit Conference. And we're working on plans for it, who will be our teachers, what will be the theme of that conference. We're working on that right now.
So I'm curious, why the term pure presence? What exactly does that mean to you or the people who study with you?
Well, pure presence is it's our identity.
Hmm.
You and everyone that's watching this and everyone on the planet, their essential nature is pure presence.
Hmm.
It's their I am presence. It's their beingness. Everyone that says I and puts am after it, I am, they are speaking from their essential nature. They are speaking from that pure presence beingness, even if they don't know it. Most people don't know it. If I were to ask you, are you aware right now? What's your answer?
Somewhat, at least what I know and study. But yeah, you're right. I mean, most people don't have a clue on that.
Yeah, well, anyone that says I'm aware is connecting to their essential nature. Awareness is our essential self. It's the thing that is available as our awakening mechanism. It's the thing that knows itself, and everyone has it, and it's immediately appropriated to the personal self identity. I, Bill, am aware. But there's something behind that that's aware of the thought. There's something behind that that's aware of the activity of the movie called Bill or Carl or Susan or Lisa or whatever. And that awareness, prior to a label, prior to a name, prior to a gender, prior to an age, that awareness is what I call pure presence. And that's what the conferences are all about. It's a place where people can join with teachers that will point the way. The same as A Course in Miracles is looking for a way to point us to the direct experience of knowing the self, where God actually takes the last step. Mm-hmm. And that's why that workbook lesson 188 says, why wait for heaven? Enlightenment is but a recognition of what you are always. And so this is something that's available for all of us right now in this holy instant as pure presence. Mm-hmm. So that's where the conferences get their title. Get it started.
Really what you're saying, and you made it's very clear to me, pure presence is our essence of our true self.
Yeah, it's you.
Yeah.
And it's the same you that's my you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same you that's everyone's you. Everyone that says, I'm me, that me is pure presence.
Mm-hmm.
It's infinite, it's ageless, it's genderless, it's colorless, it doesn't have a location, it's formless, it's you.
Yeah, that's a beautiful explanation. I really like that. Thank you. You know, one thing that I like about what you teach and live is that it's not just limited to A Course in Miracles, but it extends to other non-dualistic teachings like the Vedanta, Buddhism, Christian mysticism, even atheism and Noism. What initially drew you to those? I mean, just the desire to know on a larger scale?
Well, I don't think I don't think we pick what we're drawn to. I think it picks us.
Okay.
And the pointing of A Course in Miracles is it's a guide. It's a progressive path guide that is pointing to the direct experience of knowing the self. And most of the course students and many of the teachers that I know, they know about the course, and yet they're very happy, very comfortable living in the happy dream, because the course talks about the happy dream, and I'm living in the happy dream. I know I'm not a body. I'm free. I'm still as God created me. And you may know you may know all the titles of A Course in Miracles. You may have the first 50 lesson memorized. You may have all these different categories of content understood, and yet you haven't had your awakening experience. You haven't. You're still waiting for God to take the last step. And in order for the last step to take place, in order for the resurrection to occur, that's talked about in the Manual for Teachers, which is the single love of the Son for the Father. That's the resurrection experience. That means that the single love of the Son for the Father is awakening has occurred. The resurrection is not something that happens later. It happens when you know that you are what God is. When you know that the essence of you, the me that is you, is the same me that is Jesus. The me that is you is the same me that is the Holy Spirit. And there's no separation in your knowing your being. It's not a concept. It's something that you know. And I couldn't find it. I couldn't find the exit in A Course in Miracles. I needed to go into non-duality, the absolute presence of I am. I needed to hear from Rupert Spira. I needed to understand the teaching of Krishnamurti. I needed to understand the teaching of Ramana Maharshi, Nisargadatta. I needed to hear it through different channels, and then I had an awakening experience, and I went, oh my God, it's been in the course the whole time, and I wasn't seeing it because I was still believing that I'm Bill. I was still identifying as the person, and all of these concepts were holding me in a fixed position as a personal self-identity that was trying to wake up, that was waiting for God to take the last step. And God takes the last step when you accept the atonement for yourself and know that you're not this. And it's so subtle that most of us miss it.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Interesting too. And I understand, I'm pretty much on that same ride right there too. One thing I mentioned some of those other non-dual teachings, but I did mention Christian mysticism. I'm sometimes I'm a little confused. I know David Hoffmeister talks about what exactly is Christian mysticism.
Well, Christian mysticism is a unique flavor of teachers, really, of teachings that were presented by teachers like Yogananda, who followed the scriptures but didn't get drawn into the dogma of the teachings. He really presented the teachings, and he had his own awakening through the mystical teachings You can find it in the Kabbalah. You can find Christian mysticism in the mystical teachings of Judaism. But the mystical teachings or the Christian mysticism is the teachings of people like Ernest Holmes, Joel Goldsmith. Those are the Gospel of Thomas would be mystical or Christian mysticism. It's the teachings before they became adulterized by the Catholic movement in the 3rd century, where Catholicism diluted the message of Jesus' teachings in that century, and there was that huge book burning period that Artin and Persa talked to Gary about in The Disappearance of the Universe. It was when the Council of Nicaea came together with the 3rd century Pope, and they said, this is what we're going to allow Christians to follow, and anyone that has any other teachings, like the Christian, like the Gnostics of the time, anyone that's holding on to any of that kind of material, they're going to be killed. They're going to be put in the as entertainment for the Romans.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for mentioning that too. Yeah, I know the Council of Nicaea was a big change in the course of Christianity and religion. But another thing too, and I was glad I just started recently studying A Course of Love that was given to a woman named Mari Perron in 1997 by the Voice of Jesus, similar to that of Helen Schuckman in A Course in Miracles. Now, in this book, it states that A Course of Love is a continuation of A Course in Miracles, although there's no formal connection between the two. It goes on to say that the ACIM created an atmosphere of understanding and receptivity to a state of miracle mindedness, unlike that since Jesus showed up as a man on earth. What are your thoughts on A Course in Love?
I have a lot of friends that really enjoy A Course of Love, and I've tried to pick it up 3 or 4 times in the last 15 years, and it's a good experience. It helps people to have a more direct experience with their own relationship as love, as the awakening experience. I think it has a little less focus of the ego, and I think it's very helpful for a lot of people to connect with the integration of the pointing of A Course in Miracles into an experience of their personal, their body, mind, and the world, a form experience. And I still think it lacks the direct experience that the non-dual teaching requires. Mm-hmm. I think if you are looking for an awakening experience, you have to release yourself from all the teachings. You have to release yourself from A Course in Miracles, A Course of Love, Advaita Vedanta. You have to release yourself from everything and only want to awaken. And you even have to release yourself from that, because it says in that workbook lesson in A Course in Miracles 189, paragraph 7, to forget this world, forget this course, come with wholly empty hands unto your God. Well, even when you say the last word, God, you even need to let go of that, because God doesn't have a name. You don't have a name. And the one who starts the awakening, the desire to awaken, that one never wakes up. The one who starts you on the course or starts you on the path to wake up, whether it's Course in Miracles, Course of Love, non-duality, Advaita Vedanta, the Eastern traditions, that person that starts you on the path to wake up, it has to die for you to wake up. You have to die of your personal self identity in order to awaken to your true self as pure presence.
Very interesting. Yeah. I'm glad, now while we're talking about books, I'm glad that you mentioned Gary Renard's Disappearance of the Universe. Gary's been on this show 3 times, along with Cindy. His wife has been on, Cindy Laura Renard. I've been to his workshops, got to hang out with him and talk to him. I think for anybody who is curious about A Course in Miracles and hasn't picked it up yet, A Disappearance of the Universe by Gary Renard is a great primer. It really, because when I first met Gary and we were talking about when we both started reading A Course in Miracles, even Gary said to me, he goes, "What the hell is this? I can't understand it." And that's Gary's words. And so if people pick up the ACIM and find it difficult to understand, go find Gary's book, Disappearance of the Universe. It is a great primer.
Yeah. It will cut in just the time that it takes to read 400 pages, whether it's, if you do it like I did in 4 days, you'll probably end up in a little, that's like getting it with a fire hose. But if you pick up The Disappearance of the Universe, it resonates with you. It's because you might have maybe it's because you have a Christian background, or there's some things that come undone in that, but it will cut 5 years off your learning curve in understanding the teachings of A Course in Miracles. And I love A Course in Miracles. I'm teaching a class in August for a weekend. We're doing a weekend retreat that is just for awakening, with 6 or 7 Course in Miracles teachers who have had awakening experiences. And I'm teaching the subject of the quiet answer that's directly out of the text of A Course in Miracles. And all of the teachers that are teaching in this weekend event are teaching one is teaching, Lisa Natoli is teaching to know God. Another teacher is teaching on the borderland of thought. Another one is teaching on perception to pure consciousness. And these are all teachers. There's another teacher for a book study that I do that's written a book on a course. Her name is Amy Habel.
Training Wheels.
Yeah, these are all people that have had awakening experiences that all but one are Course in Miracles students that they left the course, they had an awakening experience, and then they go back in the course and they point out how the course is pointing to the direct experience from the very beginning. And it really just needs a pointer to help you to release yourself from your personal self-identity so that you can hear with new ears and read with eyes that can see.
That's a beautiful title, Training Wheels. That's a great description, especially if you're just starting a study and you feel a little wobbly on your old beliefs and paradigms, and the training wheels keep you upright and focused.
Yes. And this Amy Habel, she's one of our teachers for this class we're doing in August. And this class that we're doing in August it's available for, there's a sliding scale to get in it. I think it's $199 for the whole weekend. Or if you only have $49, you can pay that. If you want to pay $100, if you don't have any money and you want a scholarship, there's an email you can write. So we don't want anyone to miss this weekend experience, because I feel that if you love the course like we do, this is a weekend that will help you to have an awakening experience, and then you go back and you'll read the course in a whole new way.
Wow, that sounds beautiful. That is great. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
So we are speaking with Bill Free, a wonderful teacher of non-dualistic spirituality, focused especially on A Course in Miracles. Bill, this is episode number 123, and one of the main question that I've asked probably 100 times of my guests over the years is, why now more than ever are the people awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening? Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's because we set the alarm clock for ourselves to wake up in this time. And isn't it interesting that the internet came online in the last 25 years, and we have this means of communication where we can communicate to millions of people around the world, all different time zones, cultures, languages, and this is the Great Awakening experience. And this is interesting. I just came back from India, and I sat with a monk that was giving us a session at one of the ashrams, and I don't know how you could ever prove this, but he said in this talk that it's taken us 65 million years to get to this place where we're ready to wake up. And right now, you, me, each of us in this lifetime, this is our time to wake up. We are consciousness that's waking up to itself as itself. And this is the Great Awakening. And I think this internet is, it's part and parcel to the idea or the timeliness of consciousness waking itself up through all these different ways.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the internet completely blew open the doors now. And, we probably right now we've got somebody sitting in Oslo or Singapore watching this, and listening to it. And now the words of, ACIM and your words and other teachers can, like that, in a blink of an eye, be disseminated throughout the world. So, well, yeah. And one other thing that I'm really curious about too, I've had quite a number of guests over the years who speak about how mankind is now in a state of ascension to a higher plane of consciousness and understanding of oneness and love. Now, many of them say that it's an ascension from 3D to 5D to the fifth dimension. Do you agree? Is that even understandable?
Absolutely. I just produced a new documentary film that is.
Oh, cool! I was going to ask you about that. Yeah,
it's going to be out on Gaia in a couple of weeks. We just signed a contract with them, but it's free on YouTube. It's if you go on YouTube and you type in "Awakening Mind Films Part 1." You can watch the Know Thyself documentary, where we interviewed therapists, teachers, Rupert Spira, Neil Donald Walsh, Lisa Natoli, scientists from the University of Irvine in California, Donald Hoffman. And this is the next stage. Awakening is actually the next stage in human development. And the consciousness is coming online similar to the internet. and it's going to be in 10, 20 years, it's going to be commonplace for people to live an awakened experience, not still in a bodysuit. You don't have to go to India. You don't have to go. I interviewed a guy yesterday who had a full awakening 10 years ago, and he's never opened a book. He's never opened a. He had an awakening experience without looking for how you awaken, without A Course in Miracles, without any kind of teaching. He's got he started doing this little thing, this little what he called micro meditations, something he made up. He was more of a self-help interest, and he started these micro meditations, and he had an awakening experience from doing this, and he wrote a book called Meditation for Losers, and his name is Chris Beckett, and it just a very interesting guy from the UK that had an awakening without any kind of help. So this is the Great Awakening, and it's happening around the world.
And you're a part of it, and Lisa's a part of it, and I'm a part of it, and all of our viewers and listeners too. You have your own podcast, and I've been looking at it. You've had some amazing guests. It's called just called the Awareness Podcast, right? Where can you tell us about it? It's on YouTube, etc.
Well, yeah, the Awareness Podcast, we started, the Teachers of God Foundation is another organization that I started with my wife, Lisa Natoli, in 2012. And with that, we have we have a community called the Evolve Community. We have the Awareness Podcast that is for teachers. Myself, I do one podcast a month. Susan Telford is one of our community managers. She's the Evolve manager for another platform where we have I don't know, five or 600 people in community that where teachers come and they present content to a small community once a week, and they have Q&A sessions with these great teachers. That's the Evolve Community. And then the Awareness Podcast has Susan is one of the podcast hosts for that. Then we have Cindy Krupp and Rana Marin. They have a weekly podcast where they talk about tools for awakening on the Awareness Podcast. And then we have Jenny Beal, who is, in my mind, she's like the female version of Rupert Spira. She's also in the UK. She has this very beautiful English accent, and she's amazing because she knows all the things about the Sanskrit teaching, the non-dual teaching, and she brings it in the flavor of non-duality. So if you're looking for the different flavors of awakening and you want to stay with the content of the progressive path of A Course in Miracles, this is a sort of a all-in-one buffet that you can listen to and just allow your awakening experience to come online on its own energy without really seeking it. It sort of gets on you, and you begin to hear and listen to things that you hadn't heard before, and it's coming in, and your understanding is having a more fuller awakening experience.
Wow, this is just beautiful, beautiful stuff that you are doing, Bill, and I'm so grateful to have you on. You've shed so much light and love and truth here. How can people connect with you? I mean, your website is billfree.com, right? And they can connect with you there?
Billfree.com. You can find the content and the different events that we offer more so at the teachersofgod.org. That's where I'm the director of operations for that nonprofit. That's where we put our courses. That's where we put our free events. On billfree.com, there you can also find my weekly book study. I do a free weekly book study in the non-dual tradition. I'm working on year 5 with the book studies that I've been offering for free. You'll find a link to the Awakening Mind films over there. You'll find a lot of free stuff at billfree.com. But so you can also find our film at awakentheworld.com which is a whole nother it's a Canadian collaboration that I put together with some filmmakers, and the filmmaker of the Samadhi series, he's a Canadian that I met, and we came together to put the Awakening Mind films into one place.
Well, if anything, Bill, you are not bored, are you? You've got a lot.
I'm not bored, and I live pretty chillaxed. I really enjoy my semi-retirement time. These things sort of run themselves. I have a gift of finding great people. Like, I'm not a filmmaker. I don't know how to. I can edit a little bit on iMovie, but I have professional cinematographers that are doing the Awakening Mind film series, and I'm just sort of the visionary.
Yeah.
And I have people that run the Teachers of God Foundation, the Evolve community, and the 40-day program that we have been offering for a dozen years, and all the different events. I have a team of people that do those things. Pure Presence conferences. I have a team of people that work in the background. I'm just the visionary. This is the love of my life. And I am compelled to help and support people in their awakening experience. That's what Bill the Bodysuit is here for.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill Free. Thank you for being on World Awakenings, friend. Namaste.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified law of attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.